Hi, Karen. How are you?
Really excited to be here. I've always been a huge fan from, I guess, 30 years ago of the Antwerp 6. And I know how you guys get down here. You guys, like, you tear it up in fashion. Like, you kill it. And I'm just thrilled that you even know who I am. So I'm really excited.
So, Karen, if we rewound your career like a videotape and we could go look at the first scene, tell us what the first scene of your fashion journey would be if it were a show. Do you remember your earliest memories of getting involved?
In fashion, yeah. I didn't go to school or college for it. I had no idea that I would even be involved in fashion. I know I dreamed of it when I looked at magazines when I was 10 years old. And, my mom was a maid, and she used to bring home all these incredible Vogue magazines from where she worked. And I used to look from page to page and think, oh my God, that's a world that I'll never know. And then I became a teenager, and I started to follow fashion to a certain degree. But it's when I started to be able to buy it was when I understood what it meant. And my first real strong memory was when I was about 19. I had two jobs, and I saved up money to get a jumpsuit by Andre Walker. Andre Walker is a designer that came out the same time as Margiela. And I remember wearing it out in the way I wanted to wear it. And I got so much attention. And all of a sudden, I had no idea that I was literally starting a career as a style icon. And it was all to do with the fact that I took a risk and wore something in a way that was more ethnic and more cultural.
What did you find in like the power of fashion? A lot of people, you're from New York, right? And you've been living in London for the last, how long?
33 years.
33
Yeah.
years. So the fashion scenes are very different in each city, especially back then. New York has its own vibe, London has its own vibe, Antwerp has its own vibe. What was a driving force for you as far as like why you were interested in fashion? Like once you discovered it, what was it about it that kept you coming back to it?
Well, fashion allowed you to be who you really wanted to be, who you dreamed of being. And I didn't really, like I said, I didn't really understand what fashion was and what the industry was, because like I said, I didn't go to school for it. But I was attracting a lot of people in fashion. So I started doing the door at clubs in New York City, and I hung out with a really, really, popular artist called Jean-Michel Basquiat. Of course, you all know who he is. And
Does anybody know who Basquiat is? Raise your hand if you know
almost
that.
like hell yeah, right? So hanging out with him, and we became really, really tight friends. It opened a lot of doors to me as far as the art world. And with the art world, you will always track fashion because art has more money and more prestige. So within that whole world I was getting more and more involved in, I attracted photographers, designers, models. All my best friends were top models. It was crazy. And I had no idea that just rolling in the right wave with the people that I didn't know who were the right people or not. I just caught a vibe with them, and we hung out and we did our thing together. That it introduced me to fashion. And Andre Walker was my introduction to fashion.
What's been your secret for staying relevant in this business for so long, especially since the industry changes what feels like every 5 minutes?
Well, I think because I'm pre-internet. And being pre-internet means you have to do the work. You have to go to a library. You have to read a book. You have to go see a film. Whenever I work, I do not use my phone. Because if I use my phone, I'm using what everybody else in the world's using. So we are all looking at the same thing. How are you going to come up with something brand new if you're in the same room with everybody else? You got to jump out of that room. You got to understand that that room is for people who aren't as adventurous or who is not as interested in being authentic. I'm about being authentic with what I'm saying, what I'm doing for someone, how I'm blowing somebody up, and how I'm turning people out. It's like, for me, if it doesn't come from here and it comes from the phone, anybody can copy it. No one cares after a while. At a certain point, you don't want to become a part of a crew or a part of a year where everybody does the same thing. You want to be that bitch. You want to be standing out in front. You want to be like, it's all about me. The only way you're going to accomplish that is taking a risk by putting your phone down and doing research in a different way.
My generation talks about that a lot. Whenever I hear people from a different generation, for generations past in fashion, it seems like there was a huge celebration for being different. Like if you went to the club and somebody was in the same outfit as you, it was mortifying, right? Everybody wanted to find
Please,
the
it was a gag. You bounced. I bounced. I left. Somebody had on my, that was very rare. Just saying.
You would leave if somebody had
Bounce. Done. I'm not going to be caught out like that. That's what I'm saying. We're at a time where we are exposed to so much more than I had the chance to be exposed to. Rinse that out. Get on the train. You know what I'm saying? Go somewhere where nobody's going. Get your vibe with your own entity. Because that's what makes you stand out in front of anyone else. I'm 65 this year. Nobody can fuck with me. Trust. Trust. Because at 65, I'm still blowing shit up. It's because I'm doing it my way, and it ain't from the phone.
So what is your, actually just round of applause for that real quick, one more time, because that's
Just saying.
just saying, because we feel that way a lot. We're like, we all look the same, we all have the same references, and now it's global too. So like before you would go to Tokyo, you'd go to Paris, you'd go to all these different cities, and everybody had their own different rhythm and way of doing things. Now we all reference so much on the phone and on the internet, like you said, so you don't feel like, oh, I have to travel to go get this thing. It kind of seems like we see all of the same inspiration. I see what the Scandinavians are doing, I see what the Japanese are, it feels like it's all jumbled together and the inspiration is lost. Backstage, you said something to me, and I would like you to expound on this for the audience. You said that we lost the sense of discovery. Can you explain what you mean by that for anyone who might not understand?
Well, like I was saying before about put the phone down. Just put it down. Chop it for 2 hours out of your day. Use your brain. Read something that you haven't read before. Turn your mind out, because that's the only way you're going to discover. Discovery is what puts you away from the rest. You know what I mean? Like those kids over there, yeah, let them do what they're doing. They can afford Balenciaga. They can afford all the latest brands. No one cares, because they all are the same, because they all move in the same rhythm. Discovery is about taking away from that and moving in a whole new rhythm of how you see life. When I talked about fashion, I talked about it from a film I saw, or when I was walking down the street and I saw 3 homeless people looking incredible because they had no choice. Hunger is essential to being that bitch. Hunger, because hunger allows you to say to yourself, I have no other choice but to discover, because I can't afford just to buy, because anybody can buy, not everybody can discover.
When you started as a stylist, but now you describe yourself as a creative director. This is a big question, especially just for everybody. When did you realize you could make the jump? Because now you say creative director and you feel very steadfast in that, and you've been, molding people's careers and their aesthetic and their vision for years. But was there a point where you realized, like, wait a minute, I'm more than a stylist, I actually think I'm this? Had the term creative director even been floating around yet? Talk to me about the transition you made mentally in terms of being able to take on more work and also more ownership of the work.
Now, I'm going to be brutally honest. I meet a lot of kids that are calling themselves stylist creative directors with 0 receipts. You hear what I'm saying? For me, if you're going to call yourself a creative director, I want to see the receipts on paper. I want to see what you blew up. I want to see your idea that turned global, that went viral. That's becoming a creative director. It's the work you put in that allows you to feel you can creatively direct a project. I worked with an artist called Tori Amos. I'm still working with her 33 years later. And the reason why I'm bringing her name into this is because after the 4th album, I think, when I came up, I kept on coming up with these great ideas to project her music. I was told I was a creative director before I would even think of saying the word. Because when you're real creative, it's never good enough what you do. You're always questioning, oh no, I fucked up. Maybe I could have did it like this. Oh no, I should have spent 2 more days. So that was my whole life until, like I said, the 4th album that I did with her. And I started to realize, wow, if people are calling me a creative director, that means something. Let me understand what this means. And only then did I say, well, maybe I'm creative director next year when I do something better than this. And for me, that's when I started to evolve as a creative director, and I started getting phone calls on the back of that. I just did recently, for the last 3 years, an artist called WizKid. Nailed it, killed it, shut it down. I shut it down because I understood the importance of coming up with an idea that can be globally exciting, but that can go viral as well because it's brand fucking new. And that's what this is about. When you're a creative director, you better come up with something that's so hot that it sizzles. Yeah?
Out of all of the magic that you've produced,
I don't know if it's magic, but
magic, it
I
is
think
magic.
I'm lucky as hell. Like,
Well, okay, so on that note, I'll say this. I think sometimes when it comes to collaboration, that's another word
Yeah.
that gets thrown around a lot, but I think that there have been moments when it comes to 2 or 3 collaborators, when they get together, that they have made magic.
Yeah.
It's like chemistry. It's like certain bands, when they got together, for
Yeah.
whatever reason, that was a magical moment, or certain, stylist or designer or whatever it is. So like these moments that you've had with different creatives, creators, it's magical because there's a chemistry, there's something cosmic about everybody coming together and being able to kill it for that particular reason at that particular time. So with that, is there something that when you look back on all the projects you've done that you still get goosebumps to this day when you recall on it? What is it?
well, I don't work with anyone that I don't feel I can do something for. We are not here to work with everybody. No, we're not endless. No one's endless. But what we can do is try and pick and choose, not because they're popular or because you think that they're going to make you look fierce or feel major or whatever, or that they're in the know. You pick someone that you can honestly grow with and really turn out. And that's very rare that you can do more, I think maybe than 2 a year or 3 a year, because you need that much time to come up with something original. Because everything's been done. Oh, wow. Sorry. You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you a creative? Are you creative to get laid? If you're creative to, feel fabulous in front of people and your old friends, are you creative because you fucking love it? And it's what you think about when you get up in the morning and when you go to bed. There is no time clock on creativity. I've worked with a lot of young students. And they'll say, oh, we have to leave at 6. I said, 6? What's that? I don't know what 6 is. I haven't had a weekend in years. Do you want to do this or not?
Period.
Let's go. Let's keep it real.
But you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question. Is there something that you recall on that you still get goosebumps, like a project that you loved?
Oh, I fucked up, sorry. See what I'm saying? I get all excited. Wow. What I get really choked up is my experience with Tori Amos. It allowed me to really show my creativity to the fullest. Every single album that she came out with, I came up with an idea that was a dream. And I guess the real strongest one I've done with her is a thing called Strange Little Girls. And I turned her into different characters to handle each song because she was covering songs by men. So I wanted her to become the woman in that song. And I closed my eyes and I dreamed of all of the characters, which has been totally knocked off, which is a great compliment, by the way. But, that for me still gives me goosebumps because she allowed me and she gave me the chance to do what I thought was best for the project. And it worked. Like, I was so fucking lucky. I was like, whoa, this is working. And I took it from one of my favorite, and I give her credit, Cindy Sherman, my favorite artist. And I thought when we as women grow up, we become different women all the time. And it's okay to embrace that, because that embraces your creativity. You become different people when you work with different clients.
I don't know if you guys know who Tori Amos is, but this is major, very, very major. I'm not sure how young the audience is, but if you don't know, look it up and get into every single album because it's absolutely iconic. Okay, if you could time travel between the fashion industry of yesterday, maybe when you were coming up, versus what you see today, what is one thing that shocks you about what you see, and what is one thing that you're really proud of that you've seen?
What shocks me is that it's quite sad, because I think that the new generation have been robbed of authentic ideas because they're not allowed to just go in their own little journeys. They're constantly put in groups, and they're constantly being judged about each other and by each other. And we don't have that moment where we just go and take a walk for 1 week and disappear. And nowadays, what I'm shocked of is that no one takes the time to even know what they like. They don't even take the time to understand why they like it. They're just told they have to be A to Z, and that's the only way you're going to make it. And for me, that's a crime. It's a crime because I wouldn't give away 1 day of the experiences that I've had, from working 2 jobs and selling my clothes on the street and meeting Andy Warhol and traveling to Paris because I worked in a strip joint for 3 months. Like, these are the things that make me that bitch. These are the things that say, okay, Karen, you've done it. What else can you do? And this, for me, is what shocks me, is that whole world I just explained to you no longer exists, because it all exists on your phone. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to your friends all day long. But when you go home, that's the real you. And if you have no stories and no ambition to change your narrative, you're never going to last to be 65 and be sitting up here like I am. Come on. You have what it takes.
I gotta defend our generation here for a second. 1 second. 1 second. I hear what you're saying.
I'm just saying.
I hear what you're saying, but let me just play a little bit as a devil's advocate. In some ways, the phone can be discovery. Make some noise if you know what I'm talking about. You can discover some things through your phone. Like, that's kind of sometimes the internet is a double-edged sword, right? Because it's all of the things that you're mentioning, but also it brings us all together in a really beautiful way sometimes. So there's been people that I've been able to discover through my phone, and through Instagram or social media or whatever it is. But you're talking a lot about authenticity, which I think is really interesting. To me, some of the most authentic people that I've ever met, or musicians, etc., have been some of the bravest people that I've ever met. I think there's almost like an inextricable link between creative expression and originality, but also fearlessness, because it's scary to do the thing that nobody else is doing.
Yeah, it is.
It's scary to walk that path that no one has done, or to do that unpopular thing, or to have the unpopular opinion, but you make it seem really easy. So I guess my question to you is, what is your relationship? This is maybe a twofold question. What is your relationship like with fear, and how has it changed from maybe you in your 20s and 30s to you now in your 60s? Are there things that you're afraid of now that you were never afraid of when you were young, or are there things that, vice versa, that you were afraid of then that you're like, I would never be scared of that now?
I think fear is always going to be a part of my life. I think we're human, and we're always going to question ourselves and think, oh my God, what if, and I have the same fears, and I do understand what you said about the phone. Don't worry, I rinse it when I can, but I don't rinse it for ideas. I rinse it to find out about someone that I've heard of, or to look for where I can get something. And on that journey, I have discovered loads of things. It's discovery, not ideas, And right now, at 65, I have the same fear of not doing the best job, not putting as much as I can into it. Am I going to be late? Am I going to be over with? Am I going to be under the table? Am I going to be able to sustain my aesthetic, my swag, everything that makes me who I am? That is a big fear because at 65, I'm not working with a cane. God is good. You know what I'm saying? So most girls my age are walking with a cane. So first I feel blessed. You know, I feel blessed as hell. I have on a heel. What? Like most girls I know are wearing trainers. So first I feel blessed, but second, my biggest fear is to be out of the loop, not be able to walk, not be able to hear and see creativity. For me, I wouldn't be living anymore.
So that's a fear that's related to getting older, or just in general of your creativity and relevance?
Both. I'm not gonna sit here and say that this age is getting to me, but it's getting to me probably more than ever in a wise way. I won't make the same mistakes. Of course, I'm not perfect. I make loads of mistakes. I totally fucked up. Everybody does. This is normal. But I try and learn from them opposed to give the universe an idea of, oh my God, I'm not gonna make it. Yes, you will, bitch. Just keep it moving. A mistake is a learning curve for you. It allows you to see what you don't want to do again. And so if someone doesn't tell you you're not major right now, that's okay, boo. That's fine. You just keep it moving and work at it to the point where you no longer care if they say it's great. You will know it's great.
You do a lot of work in the mentor space. I'm curious, can you explain a little bit about the initiatives you have, and more importantly, what drives you to connect with young people and inspires you from them?
When I was young, someone drove me to it. People came up to me and said, come to my studio when I was working to do at clubs. I was like, why are you asking me? I'm not a fashion person, you know. I just work at the club. And they said, well, we loved your aesthetic and loved the way you look. I'm like, I look like this so I can get paid. I don't see what the deal is. They thought, well, we really like your sensitivity, and we would love for you to come and see the collection. And so I had a lot of people when I was young pulling me in, helping me, and encouraging me. I'm supposed to give back. And I've been giving back, I think, maybe since I was about 55 years old for the last 10 years. I called up the British Fashion Council. I said, let's go. What are we doing? Let's work. Let's get these kids out here. Let them know what's going on and push them to do the best they can before they crash. Because I felt that the industry itself tells you to be this amazing creative in one day. It doesn't work like that. The majors that we all live for and look up to, it took them time to get there. So for me, I thought, I want to give back because I've been given so much. And I tell you guys, it is the best feeling when you work with someone and they make it. Like, they go there, they develop, they get what they have to get and do what they have. It's the best feeling. So yeah, I feel blessed that I'm able to mentor. I mentor with a group called Room, R-O-O-M, and the woman that's been doing it for years, her name is Kenya Hunt, and she's the editor-in-chief of LUK. I also do this new initiative called Hi-Fi, and what we do is we go and we choose 2 designers per season, and we help them with a creative to showcase their work so they can get an award or get an award for money to help, because as we all know, there's no money anywhere for students who are struggling. So we try to at least assist 2 students straight out of college to do their first show and to show them, you know, what's out there and what's available. So I do that twice a season. And I also work on New Gen, which is the new generation of designers for the UK. And I work alongside of Sarah Moa, who's gangster.
Sarah Mower.
Yeah, she's a gangster. Like, she brought me in and she said, Karen, you can tell the kids the truth in their own language. And I never understood what that meant until I started working on it. And it's been an incredible journey working on New Gen. And I also work with the BFC on judging for all of the designers to win their awards for the year. Yeah, it's a lot, but I like it.
When you're working with younger people, what is something that, when you're working with young creatives, that you find yourself, like an unfiltered truth or an unfiltered piece of advice, you find yourself repeating over and over again with young people? What's something that you see reoccurring a lot?
It doesn't happen in a day. It doesn't happen in a day in a way where when you go to college, they say, you have to study to be a designer, you have to have your own house, or you have to be a head of a house. There's about 1,000 hot fucking jobs in fashion where you could even be making more money and getting even a bigger life. Do not be misled if you don't do one thing great, because there's 1,000 other things you could be doing. And it's not only being the head of a house that gives you a vibe. I get my life every day. I'm not the head of any house, or I'm not working in any big brand on that capacity. I'd rather work with loads of different people to fulfill my life in so many different ways. So open yourself, please, to the fact that one job doesn't work, there's plan A, B, C, and D. You will get your life regardless, because fashion is here for you.
My last question. An example of a time, another round of applause. You're really moving the people. I feel like they've really come alive in the last 30 minutes.
I just keep it real.
Okay, last question. We're on a time crunch. What's been a time when you were working with somebody young and you had that feeling of like, this is why I do it, this moment right here? What does that look like?
Oh my God, right. When I meet a young creative and I see them come up with an idea to the point where they're crying and they can't believe they've done it. It could just be a tie, a shirt, or something, and I've told them, please, just go all the way. And then I see the end result. The end result opens their whole world. And this, for me, is everything. Absolutely everything. The feeling of having someone understand that they've got what it takes is everything.
Karen, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot for listening to me. I hope you understood all of my English.
That's it, you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.